What's up guys? If you're new to my channel, my name is Barry Nobles. Today we're going to do how to gate start like the pros. The first video was like it's labeled, basics on flat pedals. So today we're clipping in and we're gonna get a lot more detailed about all the technique it takes to get out of the gate fast. So I hope you've either watched the first video, the gate start basics on flat pedals. If you haven't, here's a link above. Or you're just ready to dive in head first. So first, I wanna go over your bike setup. Especially when you're at a national or you're at a big race event, you wanna make sure everything's working properly. You don't wanna get up here and you got third place in your first moto, you didn't transfer, you really need to win your second moto, whatever the case, and you break a chain. Or you got a cleat that's loose on the bottom of your shoe. So let's go over our bike and make sure everything's dialed before we get on the gate so everything's ready to go. Cleat position. Cleat position, if you can see the little slots above, I run my cleats pretty far to the front, which is putting my pedal at the front of my foot. So if you know how crank links work, a shorter crank, you're gonna have less leverage in your start, but you're gonna have a better spin once you get down the first straightaway. If you have a longer crank, you're gonna have more leverage for a good first 3 pedals, but if your leg speed's not on top of those longer cranks, then you might get swallowed by halfway down the first straightaway. Think of your cleats like crank lengths. If you bring the cleat further back on your shoe, it's more power. It's actually giving you it's putting your foot towards the front more, and it's giving you more leverage to push down on the crank. If you put your cleat in the front of the shoe like I have, I feel like my leg speed's not as good right now, so I've actually pushed my cleat forward so I can kind of get on top of the pedals a little better, and I seem to spin a little better. So your pedal is more to the front of your shoe, which is bringing your foot back on the crank arm. It's making it feel like the cranks are a little shorter so you can actually spin a little better. Like here, your foot's actually spinning a bigger circle. But back here, if your pedal's way over here, if your pedal was on your toe, your foot's spinning a smaller circle to make circles, if that makes sense. Anyways, further back is more power, further forward is better spinning. I kind of run my chain loose. Some people might say that's too loose, but honestly, I look at it, if I can't push over and flex it off the chain ring, I use Rennen sprockets, and the teeth are actually a little fatter, so it allows me to run my chain a little more loose. I like running my chain loose just because it makes it spin a little more free. Now, tire pressure, I always, no matter if it's just practice or a race, I always check my tire pressure. You don't want to get on the gate or you don't want to ride the whole track with low tire pressure, because if your tire is squishy, your bike's going to be pushing in the ground a little more. It might make it ride a little smoother, but especially when you're doing a gate and you're doing all that force out of the gate and you got a squishy back wheel, your tire is absorbing all that power that's going back. Especially when like we run carbon shoes, carbon frames, we want to have the stiffest setup possible to get out of this gate as quick as possible. So think of that with your tire choice as well. Especially with all the asphalt turns, you're not really going to have a problem sliding out in turns anymore. So you really want to make sure yours are nice and solid when you get on the gate so everything's responding as quick as possible. Me personally, I actually run 100 pounds of pressure in my back tire. I've seen kids that only run like 60 and bump it up to 80 and feel the biggest speed difference. So put some pressure in your tires because that's free speed. All right, I'm gonna try not to go over too much of the basics that we went over in the first video, but I might go over a few things to really make sure you're still on the same page and you're getting the basics down, because it's easy to forget at times. We're gonna roll in. We're gonna put our bike perfectly straight. Some people like to push their back wheel off to the side. I just like to make sure I'm nice, I'm in the grooves, I'm in the grippiest position, and I'm just in a straight line, because I want to do a straight line straight out of this gate. I like to get clipped in and get my crank position as soon as I get on the gate and sit down and kind of take a deep breath. That way I'm not standing here, I'm tense, I'm trying to find it, and before we know, we hear the gate starter. Here we go! And the gate's going. So I'm gonna roll in, one foot clipped in, other foot in, look at my cranks, sit down, take a deep breath, and wait for that gate command. Nice strong wrist. I like to lean forward a little bit, take a deep breath, and really kind of sit into my position. Then I go up, get in my position. I want to be in my position on that first command. That way everything's ready to go. If it's going to be one of those quick beats, I'm already looking ahead, ready to snap. I'm not bending this leg too much, but I'm not straightening it out. This leg is just got to, I like to lean back, straighten this leg, and then just uncock the knee, which I went over in the first video. Whether if you look up, watch the lights, or you just listen for the beat. I personally like to listen, because if you're over in lane 1, if your head's real far over, then I feel like you have the tendency of coming over out of the gate. We want to make these gate starts as much of a straight line as possible, because if you're bobbing and weaving like this, you're taking up more track distance than you should be. You don't want to look here, because if you're looking here, in mountain biking, they have a saying, if you see the tree, you hit the tree. So if I'm looking here, looking at the gate, not wanting to hit this gate, I'm either going to hit the gate, or I'm going to be far enough behind it, making sure I don't hit it, which in return is making me later than everybody else, and I'm probably going to get cut off. I'm going to look forward. This track has a crack right before the 30-foot mark. I like to be able to look up kind of natural. I don't want to look too high like my head's bent up. Just nice, and just lift my head and let my eyes kind of follow and find the point that I want to go to. Now, I'm in position. I'm waiting on that first beep or the red light. That first beep, you see a lot of the pros like lifting their front wheel up. A lot of kids think we're wheeling. We're not wheeling out of the gate as much as we're driving our weight forward as hard as we can. And in the process, we're pulling our bars against it. So when I'm snapping and driving everything forward, I'm pulling on my bars, kind of meet my hips halfway to the gate, and that's what causes that quick pullback and that front wheel coming up, because we're pulling against it as we're pushing down as hard as we can, and that's what's getting that front wheel off the ground and making sure all their body weight's driving through this gate. A lot of people like to say you're throwing your hips to the bars, but when I see kids do that, I see this. And we don't want to see that. Throwing our body weight, but our chest is also going up. And if you have a problem with maybe spinning a tire, and on a gate like this, you should never spin your rear tire. And that's because you're throwing your weight, and your weight is actually going up instead of forward. That's what causes wheel spin. Unless obviously you're on a slick concrete gate, and sometimes it has a little dust on it and you might spin. As I'm looking forward, I hear that first beep. I'm driving my shoulders and my hips over the bars, and I'm pulling against my bars to meet my hips halfway. As I'm meeting my hips in a perfect gate, usually about right here, the gate hasn't even dropped yet. You want to be timing it where when your hips are meeting, the gate's just falling, because ideally we want to be snapping and going down with the gate. Alright, so I hear that first beep. I'm driving my hips and my weight forward. I'm stomping down that pedal. I'm driving my chest and my hips towards the bars. So we're driving down while pulling our bars against us, because when you're driving your front pedal, your bike's going to naturally want to fall over. So if you're right foot forward, your bike's going to go to the right. So be ready for that. When you're stomping that front pedal forward and pulling on those bars, really focus on keeping this bike straight. So we're looking ahead, shoulders going forward, hips are coming to our bars, we're pulling our bars to our hips, and now we're getting full extension and pressing down on that front pedal all the way through this gate. I like to put a little bit of pressure on my front pedal. That way my quad is slightly engaged. You're not pushing on it where you're shaking, but just enough where it's nice and flexed and just ready to go when you hear that first beep. We've just snapped, our pedals all the way down, we're leaning forward, we got our weight over the front of our bike, because we don't want to be like this. It's forcing our weight to go up, and we want to go out. We're driving our head and our shoulders to that mark, because we have that mark ahead of us, and we want to get there as fast as we can. As you're finishing that first pedal, you almost want to anticipate the second pedal. So as you're pushing, you're pulling your hamstrings, we're pulling that back pedal around. That's the point of having clips. As you can push, you can pull that back foot around and get onto that second pedal sooner. Like I said in the first video, no one's going to beat this starting gate, so your first pedal is all about timing and getting that momentum coming through the gate. We just got a perfect snap. We came down right with the gate. Our front pedal's down, our weight's going forward. Now we have to worry about our second pedal. We need a good transition from our first to our second, because you don't want a lag. It's like a race car. If you're in first gear and you go to shift to second gear and you miss that second gear, you're going to be cut off. That second gear is your second pedal. As you're finishing that first pedal, really anticipate that second. And as you're pulling on that pedal, you're shifting your weight back, because as that pedal comes around, you're going to do a second snap and really get it going again. as that first pedal comes down and your second pedal goes to clock past 12 o'clock, you want to have your weight back over here and your foot back around ready to stomp on this pedal at the highest position as possible. And instead of pushing here, but you're not pushing till down here, that's all this motion that you missed in your second pedal. Again, hard first pedal, shoulders, hips, body weight forward and over the bars. Anticipate that second pedal back around to stomp again on that second. All right, we're at the 30-foot mark, and that is 5 pedals it took me to get here, roughly. Some people run different gears, so we're gonna say roughly 5 pedals to get to this point, and that's on the gate, snap is pedal 1, get around for pedal 2, 1 more to get pedal 3, and then 4 and 5, you're really starting to get into a spin. So the 30-foot mark is, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the legal cutoff area. If you're in first by this point, then this track is yours. You can take any lane that you want. Sometimes I see kids come out of the gate and they're all for it and they really stay on the front of their bike all the way down the hill. Well, by the time you get into a good spin, you can't spin good way up here on the bike. But if you get your weight back and spin here, you can really kind of spin circles better on your pedals. So by the time you get to your 3rd, 4th, 5th pedal, consciously start thinking that's when you're in your spin. By this point, you're not just like you are at a gate. You want to be spinning those circles as fast as you can. So by the time you get here, if you're thinking to spin those circles, your legs are going to react to what your brain is telling it, and you're going to start spinning faster than just trying to smash one pedal at a time. And you're using those clips, you're spinning fast circles, and you're getting to the first turn for a hole shot.
Riders ready, watch the gate. Watch the gate.
When you come out of the gate, you had a bad gate or you think you tapped it, you don't know what 7 other people just did on their gate. So whether if you have a good snap or a bad snap, don't forget to finish it out. The race isn't over there. Finish it out to this mark, because if you get cut off here, then you might have to get smart and tactical around the track. You want to race? No. No? You got on the gate with me? I thought you wanted to race. Oh, well, I'm gonna race you. How about that?
Watch the gate.
All right, so that's it for gate start like the pro. What's that?
I get a big jump.
You gotta beat me.
Get a big jump.
He hit a big jump. Well, that's it for gate starts like the pros and 6-year-olds with my man Henry. So I hope it helped. Like I said, go back and watch the first one because there's a lot of basic steps I didn't cover in this one, because once you guys go watch that one, go over the basics before we get technical with it. Hope you're gonna improve your gates from this. Until next time, me and Henry.
I'm Henry. See you guys at the races.
You didn't give him a peace. Give him a peace sign. Say peace.
Peace.
Now hit it. Say peace. See you at the races.
Peace. See the races.
Teach Jim Young. Later, guys.